We're gonna go over all of them. I know we went over this before when we started this back pre-COVID, but we're gonna talk about it again. So, and the reason we're talking about it right here, right now, is because we're getting ready to go into chapter 4, and so we are going to talk about chapter 4 a little bit today. We're going to talk about verse 1. I'm going to be like Tommy today. We're going to talk about one verse. So chapter 4, verse 1, it says, "Then as I looked, I saw a door standing open in heaven, and the same voice I had heard before spoke to me like a trumpet blast. The voice said, 'Come up here, and I will show you what must happen after this.'" Okay? So, a lot of people believe that this shows us when the rapture is going to happen. He's just got done with the letters to the 7 churches that we've spent a few weeks talking about. And now he's getting ready to have a vision of heaven that's going to show him the rest of what goes on in Revelation. And the rest of what's going to happen. Okay? And so, and it's just a voice from heaven. It's like a trumpet blast. It says, "Come up here." All right? So a lot of scholars and people, everybody believe that this is symbolically like the rapture. There will be a trumpet blast or whatever, and all the Christians will be lifted up out of there, gone. All right, so that's why we're choosing to talk about it today. But before we go too far, okay, the word rapture is not in the Bible. The belief in the rapture comes from 1 Thessalonians 4, 16 and 17. I think I got it marked off here. I should. Yep, there we go. Okay. And it says, Paul's saying here, "For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with a voice like an archangel, and with the trumpet call of God. First the believers who have died will rise from their graves. Then together with them, we who are still alive and remain on the earth will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So we will be with the Lord forever." So encourage each other with these words. Okay, so here he's talking about that we, as Christians, will be caught up. The ones that are alive will be caught up.
What did you say that verse was again? 1 Thessalonians what?
4, 16 through 18.
Okay.
Okay. But so he's saying that we're going to be taken up to meet him in the air here. Okay, rapture is first started getting associated with this passage of the Bible. Most scholars agree, and I've read that Tim LaHaye says that you can trace it all the way back to the early 1st century and stuff like that. But most scholars agree that rapture really started to come about as a theology in the 16th century. And the word rapture means to be caught up. And so they're basically, there is no actual word of rapture in the Bible, in any of the texts or anything like that. But the principle is pretty much the same, is that we will be taken up to the clouds to meet Jesus in the air. Right? So, and this will be after those who have died will be raised up to Jesus as well. Now that'll be the raising for the people that have died, that'll be just the raising of their bodies to be taken up, to be given new bodies. Their spirits will be in heaven already. So they'll be, basically their body and their spirit will be reunited, and then they'll be transformed into their new bodies. The eternal bodies that we will all have. Okay? But there's 3 different beliefs about when this will actually take place. So we're talking about one right now. Okay? All right. We got pre-tribulation rapture, which is what is believed in chapter 4, verse 1. Okay? And we're going to go into detail on all three of these. Then we got mid-tribulation rapture. It says there's a 7-year period of time that the tribulation will happen. 3.5 years of it is peaceful, and then in 3.5 years of it is just unbelievably bad. Okay? And the mid-tribulation rapture theory believes that at the 3.5 year mark, when the peaceful time comes to an end, that the church will be raptured out of here. That we will be here for a period of time during the peaceful time. We won't deal with all the major judgments, but we will have to deal with what goes on the first 3.5 years. Which there are some judgments that happen during that time too. Okay? And then we got post-tribulation that talks about when Christ comes back, and before he sets up his reign for the millennium and then the last judgment and everything, that's when we will be raptured. Okay? So we're going to talk more about each one of these today. All right? So the first one is the pre-trib rapture. And as we discussed already in 4:1, it's, John hears a call up to heaven, and that's where people get the idea that that's how it'll work, is that it'll be allowed, like a trumpet blast or whatever that the Christians will hear, and we'll just, be raised up, gone, So that's when they think it's gonna, they think it's gonna happen then. So anybody got, before I go too far, anybody got any questions about this? We got this. Can I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, I draw.
Well, okay. I didn't know if somebody. I see people taking notes, so I want to make sure that they got what they wanted for notes, on it and stuff. So I'm not asking you to draw, but you just, pre-trib and write a definition or something like that. I don't know. So whatever you guys feel you need to do. So, but all right. So we're gonna move on to the next slide here. So pre-trib pre-trib rapture. Like I say, 16th century. It's really not a 16th century word, but it started coming about in the 16th century. It was about 10:30 at night when I was doing this slide, so this may be a little quirky on here. But it's Revelation 4:1. They say that that's a picture of what the rapture will be like, and that's basically, that's it.
Now, why do they think that's just a symbolic?
What now?
Why do they think that's just a symbolic rapture?
Well, maybe symbolic is the wrong word for it, but this basically is like a rapture because he's told to come up here. And that's what is going to happen during a rapture, is that the Christians will be raised up to heaven. And so it's, he was in the spirit. He actually didn't go physically to heaven. His spirit went to heaven to see this vision, and then of course he came back and whatnot. So, that's what they think, like I say, symbolic is probably the wrong word, but that's the picture of what it's supposed to be like, is that, there'll be a voice or some loud thing that will let everybody know and pull, and we'll just all be taken to heaven at that point.
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Is this the Apostle John that's seeing this vision?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, this is the Apostle John in Revelation that's seeing this vision. Thessalonians is where we were reading, that's Paul writing. And he's writing to the people in that letter, talking because they're concerned about what's going to happen with the people that have already died. And that's the reason he's writing that letter, is to let them know what happens during the end times and stuff, and during the final days, and how everybody will get to heaven. Okay? So, one of the reasons that people believe that this is such a prominent thing is because that it's a pre-trib. One of the, the people that support pre-trib rapture believe that this is because, as we talked about the Church of Philadelphia, they were doing really good, and God promised them that if they stayed faithful, he would protect them from the times of trouble at the end of the age. Okay? So a lot of people think that they're going to be protected by being removed from that time period. Okay? But people that don't believe that this will happen then is, they point out that this isn't the second coming of Christ. He's not going to stay here if when if the rapture happens at this point, he's not going to stay. So it's not really the second coming of Christ. And so the belief is that while he will still come at the end of the age, his second coming, that this is like the voice or whatever, the archangel, Gabriel or Michael or whoever, one of the archangels is going to command that voice and call the Christians up during the rapture. Jesus will not actually come back and take us, snatch us up and take us to heaven. It'll be just a command like what John got of, come up here. So am I explaining this okay?
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
Southern Baptist theology generally believes in this area, right? Pre-tribulation?
Yes. Yes, generally, yes. So that's the I don't think it's just Southern, I think it's most Baptists. I know when I was up north that this is what I was taught when I was, and it wasn't Southern Baptist that I was in up there. So, but yeah, most Baptists believe the pre-trib version of this. Okay, and so, and I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know. I've studied this several times now, and this is one of those issues that we've talked about. That this is a salvation issue. Why are we arguing about this? Okay, but I'm just trying to let you guys know about the different beliefs that are out there, and what different people say, so that when you run into somebody that might not believe and might believe mid-trib or post-trib or whatever, that doesn't believe, and there are some people that don't even think there's going to be a rapture. Basically, if you're a post-trib person, then you're kind of, you believe that you're going to be here through the whole time, so there's really not a rapture that's going to protect you and take you out of the world. So, you'll be caught up with Jesus when he, does come back. So that's where it kind of gets all confused and everything, but it's one of those points that it doesn't matter when it happens. So we'll talk about that more here.
Yeah, I had a discussion one time with a guy at work years ago because I don't agree with the pre-trib, but we were discussing it and all, and he said, "Well, you're going to miss the rapture." I'm like, "Well, wait a minute," and he was using that same version of John, being called up. I said,
Yeah.
The angel didn't say, "John, would you like to come up here?"
Yeah.
He said, "Come up."
Right.
So even if it's not a salvation issue.
Right.
So even if it happens and you don't believe it, you're going to be called up.
Exactly. Okay? If you're a Christian and walking with Christ in a relationship with Christ and have accepted the work that he did on the cross for us, then you're going. Okay? So just the whole point and to get to the last point of the lesson is be ready. Okay? Be ready. Live your life. And that's what we'll get to exactly. So like you said, we're not going to have a choice. Not going to have a choice. And I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But again, I don't, and I'll just be open and honest. I've been taught the pre-trib my whole life, but the more I've studied, the more I really don't know myself. But I don't care. I don't care. I just want to live my life every day the best I can for God. And when he takes me home, he takes me home. And
that's me. I've always had the attitude of I'm not special. So why would he make me,
yeah.
I'm not special.
Yeah, exactly. And to be
I
honest
to suffer, I'm only gonna die once.
Right, exactly. And to be honest with you, if Nicole was here, Nicole's take on the whole thing is she's just like, why is it that the apostles and everybody else who walked with Jesus and suffered such miserable deaths, except for John, who died of natural causes, old age, who did die though, but or was taken up into heaven like Elijah. We don't, but he's not here no more. We know that. So, because Jody hasn't found him yet. But she says, and then all the martyrs and all the people that have been tortured and killed throughout the whole church age, she's like, why am I getting a pass? Why am I going to get a pass? Why am I going to believe that I'm going to get a pass? And so, and then I really actually was going to call somebody I know that grew up in Nigeria and lives over here now. And I got busy. I lost focus this week, and I didn't get a chance to call him because I was going to talk to him because I've actually read that this is actually more of a Western Christianity kind of belief. That this isn't a huge belief throughout the whole Christian world. That this is more of, or maybe it's there, but that it's more promoted in Western civilizations and Western Christians as, you know, and so, but I don't know to the extent of how true that is. That's why I was going to call somebody that was raised as a Christian in Africa and ask them if they, you know, put a focus on it, if he had heard, or if he heard about it when he got here and stuff. And so, you know, just kind of do my own litmus test of that. But I like I said, I got distracted this week and didn't do it. But I will. I'll contact him and ask him. But yeah. So, but the other, you know, one thing, like we talked about when we talked about Philadelphia, the church of Philadelphia, was that Jesus was praying in the garden before he was crucified. And in John 17, 15, and 16, he says, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. They do not belong to the world any more than I do. Okay? And so, what he was telling the church in Philadelphia, what he's telling, you know, yeah, he's going to protect them, but it doesn't mean he's going to remove them from the world. Because here Jesus is praying, I'm not asking you to take them out of the world, but to keep them safe from the evil one. And God can do amazing things. If God wants to protect us from the evil one, then he can do it in miraculous ways that we've never even possibly comprehended or thought about. And so,
I just thought about something. When Gerald was dying, I was
Okay.
standing there. He looked up and it's like he saw. He said, I see the light. Honey, don't you see Mama? She's standing right behind you. Could he have been hallucinating? Or was that actually happening?
it was probably actually happened. And when there are several points in the Bible where we see when Stephen's being martyred, the door to heaven was open. He looked up and he even said, I can see the Son of God sitting on the throne. So I honestly, I mean, I haven't died, so I don't know for sure, but I honestly believe that when a Christian dies, is on their final days or whatever.
I know where he's at, because he said, I see the light. I see the angel, an angel, and I
Right.
see Mama standing right behind you.
Right.
You don't see her, there she is. He pointed toward her.
Right. And so I honestly think that when people do die, that the door is open to heaven and they're able to see, and when they're in their last moments of life here on this earth. And so, you know, that's entirely possible. So, but yeah. So, but John also goes on to talk here a little bit more in I'm not going to read them, but verse in 17, John 17, 20 through 22, Jesus is also praying that while we're here on this earth, we should be here to help others know the truth and to come to a relationship with God. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. Otherwise, it'd be really easy for God to take us home. So what's the difference between, when we become a Christian, why doesn't God just take us home then? Rapture is then. Because he needs people to stay here and to be the light and the example to other people. And so, what better time for that to happen than during the tribulation? And now, I'm not making arguments one way or the other. I'm just telling you some of the arguments that are out there. Okay? And then also in John 6:40, Jesus is talking of those who are faithful being raised up on the last day. And so, with the faithful being raised up on the last day, many people feel that the rapture could not happen at the pre-trib point, that it would happen at the last stage, the post-trib. So, any questions, comments, thoughts before we move on to the next one? Okay. Am I doing okay with this? I feel like I'm talking in circles here. That's a good circle. Okay. All right. All right. Well, the next view is the mid-trib view, and these other two are a lot quicker. So, we're going to get through them here. But this view believes that the 3.5-year period or point of the tribulation, the church will be raptured. Okay. We haven't started discussing it yet, but The book of Daniel prophesies that when the Antichrist comes, he will make a deal. He will bring peace to the world. The world will finally have peace, but he will also unite the whole world under his rule, and he will be given total, complete control. And he will make a deal, and that'll be great. Everybody, he will be deceiving the people and everybody. At that 3.5 year point, for 3.5 years, there'll be a lot of peace on the earth. There'll be some judgments from God that we'll start talking about in 2 weeks when we come back. But at 3.5 years, the Antichrist goes to the temple and desecrates the temple. And at that point, things turn, and the judgments get harder, and there's a lot of war and a lot of problems on the earth and stuff like that. A lot of people believe that at that point, when that happens, or right around the time that happens, is when the rapture will be. Right? Now, a lot of people point to these other marks of, when things are going to happen and say, well, if that's the case, Jesus said that it'll be, you won't know the time, you won't know whatever, but if you're counting from the 7-year period, then, you know when the rapture is going to happen, or when Jesus is going to come back. Well, no, you really don't, because God's timing and man's timing are different. God's timing might be from the day that the Antichrist, comes on the scene, or it might be that, he might start his clock after the deal's made or whatever and stuff. So we don't exactly know all of God's timing. But yeah, you probably would have a ballpark idea as to when it might happen at some of these other points. But, I just don't know how big or small of a ballpark that is. And so, we'll don't know that we'll be able to pin it down. I know several years ago there was, in fact, when I was looking up, trying to find that map, that first slide there, when I was looking, I put images of rapture views or whatever, and May 21st, 1992 came up, because somebody was running around, made a big deal out of May 21st, 1992 was going to be the day that the rapture was going to happen, or something like that. Don't know where they are, but we're still here. So, nobody knows the day or time. So, but yeah, so believe that, a lot, this belief is that there'll be a lot, that the believers will be here for the time of peace, and the judgments that happen during that time period, probably be protected from the judgments that happen, and that before it gets really nasty down here, that it will be raptured out. Okay. One problem with this that people point out with it is that the sixth seal is broken in Revelation chapter 6, but the 3.5 year period doesn't happen until Revelation 11, and so after the sixth seal, things really start to get dicey. Once they start on that seventh seal, it's on. You're talking like 1/4 of the world's population wiped out. And so, for us to not be getting out of here, so a lot of people point to that the timeline doesn't line up and whatever. Again, God's timing is different from ours. Days, like 2,000 years or whatever, the verse says, but to God, and so we just don't know. So, okay, but that's one thought is that we will be spared from the bulk of the tribulation by being pulled out of here after the 3.5 years of peace, or mostly peaceful time that we will have. So, questions about this one? All right. The last version is the post-trib rapture, and that one says that. I believe that the rapture will happen at the end of the tribulation. Christ will return on the clouds. Wow, that's a major typo. Okay, and we'll be caught up with him in the sky. Yeah. Okay. Support for this belief is from the words of Jesus himself in Matthew 24, verses 21 through 28. Okay, for there will be greater anguish than at any time since the world began, and it will never be so great again. In fact, unless that time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive. But it will be shortened for the sake of God's chosen ones. Then if anyone tells you, look, here's the Messiah, or there he is, don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. See, I have warned you about this ahead of time. So if someone tells you, look, the Messiah is out in the desert, don't bother to go and look. Or look, he is hiding here. Don't believe it. For as the lightning flashes in the east and shines to the west, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. Just as the gathering of vultures shows there is a carcass nearby, so the signs indicate the end is near. All right, so here's Jesus' own words. He's telling everybody about what they need to be looking for in the end days. He says that the days will be shortened for the sake of the people, the believers. All right, and so a lot of people believe that what he's saying here is that God's people are going to be here for the whole thing. And that, yes, he will shorten the time of calamity and he will protect the people in some way. But we don't know. So, but they will join him when he comes back on the clouds and comes down, then we will be raised to caught up with him in the air and join him in the air. Okay? Now that brings up another point with people that argue against this, say, well, it makes absolutely no sense for God to come back, Jesus to come back, and for God to call us up and join him in the clouds, and then we're just going to come right back to earth with him. Okay, I get that. Okay? But if Jesus is coming back for the final battle, he's going to want all the people that are with him up there. He's not going to come back and have people here on earth having to deal with the battle and everything else. He's going to want all of, you don't go, a general doesn't go into a battlefield with people over there on the enemy side of the line.
If I were in Ukraine fixing to go to war as a soldier, I would send my wife to Italy for protection. So he's saying,
Yeah.
Get behind
There
me.
you go. There you go. That's a better analogy,
I'm
right?
fixing to do something. Get back there.
Get back there. Yeah. There you go. Very good. Thank you. That's right. So he's gonna protect, and that's and so not that we're gonna be required to have the battle because we know that Jesus will have the battle, but we're just gonna kind of be spectators. But you're right. The protection of be with him and behind him and for him and stuff, and so that would be, and then this is also believed to be the premillennial. He's going to come down, he's going to rule on the earth for 1,000 years, and we're going to rule with him. We talked about that during some of the church letters and stuff, that we would get to rule with him, and so by us joining him at that point, so that's, like I said, there you can pull verses, and I pulled a few out here and there. You can pull verses out to support or go against any one of these beliefs. Okay? To be honest with you, I don't know where I stand on it. But I really don't care. Because I just, like I said earlier, I just want to live my life. And that is the point of this whole lesson, is to live your life every day. So that if Jesus calls us home today, the rapture today, that we are ready to go. Because you think about it, if it's pre-trib, and that's it could be one of the reasons why that version is so popular, is because the church has been trying to encourage people to live every day for God. And so if you're living every day for God, it could happen at any moment. And it really could happen at any moment, but we do see Jesus giving warnings and advice about the end days. Don't go looking for the Messiah. And a lot of what he's saying there is that when he comes back, everybody's going to know. Everybody's going to know when he comes back. And that's what he's saying about, don't believe people that say, oh, he's out in the desert, or oh, he's over here, or he's on a cruise ship somewhere. Don't believe that, because when Jesus comes back, everybody's going to know. And so, you know, that was part of what he was saying there, but he was also talking about that times are gonna be hard and it's gonna be, you know, there's gonna be trials. And one of the things that the rapture, or not the rapture, the tribulation is meant to do is to test the people and where they stand. And so we need to be prepared and we need to know. And that's one of the reasons why we're starting Revelation, so we know and we can see and we know what's, you know, and we gotta stand for our beliefs. Because every day is a test. Even if we're not in a tribulation, every day is a test. Walking through one right now. So, questions, comments, thoughts? I'm gonna wrap it up. Did make sense? Explain it good?
Yeah.